Reeva, welcome and thank you for your time. I'm absolutely excited to have a chat with you today and to hear what you are all about and to share it with everybody else that's watching my blog.
Well, first of all, let me say thank you so much for inviting me. And I must tell you that I'm very proud that Elise Ray is a client of mine for Reeva Beauty and Health. So, but anyway, I would have said yes, because I think any endeavor by a young South African or an older one, age mustn't come into it, is an incredible indication of the wonderful initiative and the wonderful way we as South Africans have of reaching out towards each other, irrespective of what madness is going about around us. So, Elise, thank you for having me. And it's an honor to be talking to you and the people who will be listening to this blog.
Thank you so much. So I was wondering if you could tell me, how and why did the Reeva brand come about?
Well, it came about actually, as maybe many things in life do, as a completely unexpected, unplanned, not ever dreamed of. I never thought of having a business of my own. I started life in South Africa in terms of my career as a young model. And 13 years old, I was very, very shy. And my dad thought it would be better to let me have a sort of little deportment course. One of my friends was doing modeling and deportment, but he disapproved thoroughly of modeling. He didn't think that was the right profession for his daughter, but he would have liked me just to get a little bit of confidence. It's hard to believe today that I was very, very shy. In fact, I'm still not that comfortable with just social. I think that believe it as it may. I know Elise doesn't believe me. So he took me for a deportment course. And the woman who ran this deportment course also ran a model agency. And she said to my dad, Mr. Forman, I trust you haven't brought your daughter here to be a model because she hasn't got what it takes. She's not tall enough. She hasn't got the right persona. And my dad said to her, the last thing I want is for my daughter to become a model. We have slightly other ideas, and I'm sure she has. But if it kept her on the deportment side, well, to everyone's shock and horror, I looked at the models and I thought, gee, I'd love to do that. And I was a natural on the stage. So in spite of what the woman who owned this modeling deportment finishing course thought of me, and in spite of what I even thought of myself, I somehow loved to be on that stage, walking and communicating. It was almost a natural, and I cannot tell you why. Wow. Okay. So against her initial perception and against my dad's wishes, but my mom was in love with ideas. Because what I didn't tell you is that my mom, who grew up in Cape Town, had been the first woman to dive off the old pier in Cape Town into the sea. And she was adventurous. And she couldn't be more proud of her daughter being a model, and my dad couldn't be more disappointed. So I remained just as shy, and I started my modeling career at a very young age, about 14, 15 years old. And somehow I loved being on the stage, but afterwards I was still Reeva, and that continued, and I became South Africa's top model twice in a row. And at the same time, with my dad's blessing, I started university here. And I did what everyone does when they don't know what they want to do, which was a Bachelor of Arts. And one of the subjects I happened to do was psychology. And again, it was like the instinctive loving of showing clothes and being in front of a camera. I fell in love with the understanding of God's creation, of the mind. And it fascinated me even at a very young age. I went to university when I was 15, and I studied psychology. And as a result of all that, at the conclusion, I modeled throughout part-time. I took a break to go overseas and model there. And then I did my honors. And I fell in love with the concept of understanding the ability and the potential that people had. So after my psychology degree, I decided to go into what was then called transformational empowerment training. And I joined as a trainer manager, nothing to do with the cosmetic side, a direct sales cosmetic company here from America, who were looking for a person to come and train their distributors or their consultants in self-management, setting goals, having a passion for what you're doing, very, very basic stuff. So I joined them and I did that. And I had a very good insight into direct selling or direct marketing. But my big passion has and remains to this day to help people develop the potential that God has given us, each and every one. It doesn't matter what religion you are. It doesn't matter what age you are. It doesn't matter your color, your background. It doesn't even matter whether you have education or not. But if you have a passion for something, that's what you are meant to do. You've been born with the ability to achieve your potential. Now, that doesn't mean to say I could be a great opera singer, because had that been my passion, I would have been listening to opera singers, I would have been training. Whatever your passion is, as Ilse's passion, as she's told me, is to reach out to people, that is what you must listen to. And so what I did then is I was training for this company. I was also working in the 80s as a transformational trainer for banks here, for the Architects Association, because in the 80s, everyone already knew that there would be a move towards democracy in this country. There had to be. And what happened is the company I was training for in cosmetics, who sold cosmetics, that I was training, their management closed down. And a lot of the people, they said to me, Reeva, please, we don't want to lose you as a trainer. Won't you start a company and give us some products to sell? So I thought, why not? You know, I'd grown up as a model. I'd grown up behind a chemist's counter, seeing my mom being charming to everyone who walked in. So I thought, why not? And so with very little money, I actually started to say, yes, I'm going to do that. And we'd keep the training as well for people who wanted to do the training, but for people who wanted to as well have a part-time or full-time independent career, they could join Reeva. So the training was always open to anyone and everyone. And so this is how Reeva started. No one wanted to work with a young woman. He said she was cheeky enough to challenge much bigger names that had grown up in the cosmetic company and had chemists and already had their own businesses. And so no one wanted to work for me, and I battled to find any cosmetic chemists. They didn't believe in me, the usual crap. And then I thought, okay, I wonder who supplies the natural essences to Dior, to Estee Lauder, to Lanvin. I know what, I can't get a person who's going to help me formulate cosmetics. I'm not a cosmetic chemist. I'll start with perfumes. So I found out who was the representative for South Africa for a renowned company in Switzerland who produced perfumes for the great. And I was cheeky enough to phone, and the answer was, terribly sorry, we don't do perfumes for companies that are just beginning. It's impossible. I didn't give up. I then learned that the representative of this company was coming to this country to meet people. They were also supplying perfumes for toiletries and soaps. It was beyond the cosmetic industry. And someone gave me his name and phone number, and he agreed to meet me. And he said, you know something? I'm going to take a chance on you.
Oh, wow.
I said, I don't want to copy anyone else's perfume. I want you to develop my own. He said, okay. He said, I'm going to take a chance. I'm going to stick my neck out for you. And hence began my love affair with perfumes. He went back. I learned there were 5 or 6 different categories: floral, aldehydic, exotic, etc., etc. We then got samples. He then made up for, this company then made up for us samples of the different perfume types. And I got all the people who had been selling cosmetics anyway in this other company, which had closed down, rushed to me for the training, and we got them to choose the best in each category.
Wow.
Let's say they chose 2, then the ultimate choice was up to me. So it was a completely mad way of starting a business, but we did it. So when we opened up, we started with the training before the cosmetics, and that was open to everyone. And so when we did start, I think for the first year, we had maybe 1, 2 women's perfumes. The second year we had 3. Then someone said, no, we need a man's, and we had, it was for 2, 3 years, we sold 4 fragrances for women, 2 fragrances for men. And those we are still selling today, like the traditional brands that I was so in awe of. So that's how we got started. I believe that it was through my innocence. It was through knowing no better. I wasn't starving, as many people are today. I always had a roof over my head with my parents until they passed. We never had a lot of money. I raised my own. And somehow it was easier then because of not knowing all the barriers. I didn't know what could be done. Today, many years later, I, unfortunately, like many of our listeners, I suppose, going through serious ups and downs, I don't have the innocence that I had then, but I'm determined not to let it go totally. So I think the younger you are, and the more passionate you are about what you do, it is, and the less you listen to people who tell you don't be mad. What do you want to kill yourself for? You know, nonsense. Yeah, take it easy. Take what you can get, do as little as you can. I wasn't brought up like that. My parents had never worked for anyone. They came here with parents who were immigrants. They didn't have much money. And I heard God was good and work hard. So really the thoughts and the ideas you grow up with, it is so important to understand who you are, why you think the way you do. And even if you've grown up with very bad, we used to call it programming. Today they call it socializing. No matter what ideas you've grown up with, I want you to know that whatever dream is in your soul and in your heart, I don't care what age you are. I don't care what people tell you can't do. You can do it. Just begin it and you'll be amazed. So that's the story. And after a few years, people saw, wow, they're not doing badly. So as local cosmetic chemists at that stage wouldn't work with, ultimately we found an incredible, brilliant young Afrikaans scientist who developed the first formula for black like me. Now, you know, people, and he developed what we call our fresh herb range. And unfortunately, he's passed on a blessed memory. And I'll never forget, here in apartheid, we started in the 80s, was a young Afrikaans scientist and a brilliant young entrepreneur working together. And you see, what people don't understand about our country is that apart from the politics and apart from your extremists on both sides, the extremists on both sides, black, white, pink, Jew, Christian, Muslim, every sector has its extremists. But why I love South Africa so much is that the vast majority of our people, even in apartheid, and particularly, I think, at least in Johannesburg, somehow, my dad used to say there's that mining camp mentality. You get together. And I was trained by a brilliant man in America. I was telling you that earlier on, who heard of me training in this American cosmetic company, invited me to do a brilliant advanced course, which I had to pay for myself, no free lunch. And he told us one thing: the color green is the best anti-racist tool in the world. And Johannesburg somehow symbolized that. I mean, in the 80s, everyone was working together. In fact, in the late 70s, there was something called the Junior Chamber of Commerce before you really went to university. And I became the first woman president of that. And I had to do a project, and I'm giving my age away, in 1979. And I was early at university then as well already. And I had to do a project to get accepted. And I did a project not on literacy, but on Black executive development management in 1970, 1980. And Barclays, today, thank God, Absa Bank sponsored it. And we had 100 young Black managers sitting there. So already in the 80s, I don't know about before, although apartheid still existed as a political government, companies, particularly in Johannesburg, which I think, of course, is great. You know, to us, we're pragmatists. And already many companies, banks, breweries, all sorts of companies were already employing young Black people to fast track them to management. So it was a very, the years of the 80s was a terribly exciting time for me, because I ran this 5-day management course. And at the same time, we started Reeva. And incredible people joined that course who had heard about it and wanted to change their way of thinking. And I'll never forget the late General Peter Walls from the then Rhodesia was coming here and wanted to change his mindset, and we even had him with us. Wow. And at the same time, we had wonderful Black pastors from other religions with us. And I remember even in those 80s, we offered the police, provided it was an integrated white and Black group, that they could send us 6 people at no charge. So that's my background. And that really is my passion. So I was interested to hear your passion. So what we did then, as Reeva grew bigger, we, all the people who joined Reeva obviously did the training, but the training course was separate. We, and that's how we grew Reeva. Slowly, we managed to develop over maybe 5, 6, 7 years, a very, very big range. We still have the original 6 perfumes. And thank God we still have many of our original customers. And then we developed the skincare range. We developed internationally an anti-aging range. which they manufactured for me there, but we packed here. And they work with South African scientists here for all skins and all types. And then we very, very, very slowly went into makeup and worked with an Italian company. I would go to a international cosmetic show once a year to learn what was the newest trends. And we've always been very, very in advance of the trends of these, merely because without being a huge national company, we could make decisions quickly. So I'm going to give you a chance to come in there. And then ultimately, the last range, or not the last, but one of the concluding ranges we still want to go on, we decided to go into the health fair because I've always been fascinated with nutrition. And hence it led to our Reeva diet supplements that we did with Dr. Cohen. So I'm now going to stop there and say, I hope I haven't spoken too much.
No, not at all. I absolutely love listening to you. It's such an inspiration to hear your story, and I'm sure you are cramping it all in, not giving us all the detail. But having said that, to all the Dr. Cohen fanatics out there and everybody on the Dr. Cohen diet, how did you guys meet? How did it start?
Okay. First of all, I want to thank you, Elise, as a client, and I want to thank all my loyal Dr. Cohen Reeva diet supplement clients. You today contribute to 50% of my business.
Wow.
And it's thanks to you in a way that I've even stayed in business, because I'm going to tell you later, I had a major setback a few years ago, financial, nothing to do with the business. So thank you for being my clients. And I can assure you we stay up to date with all the latest nutritional news and make quite sure that this brilliant product that Dr. Cohen himself developed. I met Dr. Cohen, Elise, it must be about, 10, 12 years ago. I don't know how I met him, but he phoned me up and he said, Reeva, we had just introduced, by the way, multivitamin. I was doing it very slowly, and that we were even importing from an incredible company overseas that specialized on vegan products or vegetarian, because I'm a fanatic animal lover. And he said, I believe that you're going into nutritional supplements. I said, yes, Dr. Cohen. He said, well, I want to tell you that my background is a gynecologist, but I have fallen in love with a new concept of people losing weight. And instead of supplementing a meal, and remember, Elise, that all methods are good. You never run down anyone else's method because yours is better, because they're not. Yes. It depends on the individual which method suits them. And it's the same with cosmetics. We are always taught the Reeva people, please don't say our cosmetics are better than anyone else. What you can say is they're equal to the finest in the world.
Yes.
I don't believe, from a spiritual point of view, a political point of view, or a business point of view, of denigrating my competitor or denigrating the other to make me better. I think that's terrible.
No.
So Dr. Cohen said, look, I don't want to send my people, the people who he was then developing his clinics. And as you know, it was a brilliant method. He takes your blood, he analyzes it,
yes.
And then he gives you a normal eating diet according to the analysis of your blood. For example, if you showed you were a diabetic, he would cut out everything with sugar. And I like this natural approach. He said, but what was worrying him is that people were taking any multivitamin from a pharmacy, and the complete multivitamin with the entire B family and everything else actually increases the desire to eat, because the more nervous you get, the more you want to eat. Why?
Yeah.
I studied this in psychology. The part of your nervous system, Elise, that is involved in digesting doesn't allow the nervous system involved in worrying and anxiety to be active. So they can't work exactly at the same time. this is why people develop two habits. When you're growing up, if you're very young and you're worried about something, you've learned that when you eat, just by association, you fall asleep or you feel better. Other people can't eat at all when they're worrying, because it depends on what happened to you by chance growing up. So understanding this, his diet appealed to me in that it was natural foods. Are you still with me? Is the connection stable?
I'm still here.
So, long story short, Dr. Cohen said, look, I don't want to go into that industry. I'm not prepared to spend my money developing it. You spend your money, but I'll tell you what to put in it. And I said, done. You know, when you're younger and risking is much easier, and you're not frightened to use money because you're making it anyway, started without it, so who cares? And you made it very quickly. And it's much easier. And I said, you've got to deal, because I knew I wanted to go into the nutritional supplement area. So Dr. Cohen, together with a top laboratory, I won't mention their name, but the people manufacturing for us manufacture for the majority of major brands on our shelves today. So Dr. Cohen, together with a friend of mine, he's not here any longer, who was a nutritional scientist in his own right, and Dr. Cohen, they together developed what is known as the Reeva diet supplement, but formulated by Dr. Cohen. It's known for Reeva because we paid entirely for the development, and because of that, we were given exclusivity with this product in South Africa. Now, just to do one more plug, it is terrific. If you eat like mad, folks, it's not going to help you. You might as well just take any ordinary multivitamin, including mine. But if, in my opinion, and this is not Dr. Cohen, because we do sell to people throughout South Africa who are not on the Dr. Cohen diet, but who've heard about it, no matter what diet you're on, if you stick to that diet, if you're eating a lot of fats, creams, fried food, sugar, I'm afraid the Reeva diet supplement is going to make you a bit healthier, but won't help you lose weight. But if you really are serious about losing weight, let's say naturally, whatever you're cutting out, be it starches or be it fat or be it whatever, and you take your Dr. Cohen Reeva diet supplement with a meal. It's recommended one in the morning. People now in COVID are taking one as well at lunchtime to increase their and boost their immunity. There's one thing it does do. We have an added element which stops the craving for sweet things. So that's the story of your favorite product, Elise. And that's how it started. So what has happened is I didn't say to myself, I'm going to build this great direct sales cosmetic company. I'm an empowerment trainer. I'm a humanitarian activist. But when something is presented and it rings a bell and that quiet voice inside you says, go for it, you go for it.
Yes.
Hence, we Reeva Beauty and Health today.
That's just brilliant. And I must say, I've had a time where I didn't have my supplement, and I could actually feel a vast difference of not taking my supplement every day. So I can confirm it is brilliant. And especially if you're dieting and exercising, that's the one to go. If you don't know which multivitamin to buy, don't go to other stores. Go to Reeva. It's brilliant.
And just to add to that, two things. First of all, thank you, Elise. You know, a testimonial that's the truth is basically how Reeva was built. And all I can say, I want to just thank Dr. Cohen for giving me an opportunity that he didn't want to waste time on, but it's actually built everything for me. And also, I want to thank God for giving me the ability to have the courage then to go ahead and do it. So, and I want to thank all my clients out there. So, yeah, and it's free delivery in South Africa. You
Which
know,
makes it better.
yeah.
Right.
At least just to talk about that, you know, we did go through a major adversity. We were one of the biggest direct sales companies in the 80s and the 90s. And I decided we've always run the training company separately, but the profit actually came from the marketing company, because the training company we kept at a low cost so that everyone could do it. And then what happened is, and I'm sharing this with you to encourage anyone out there who thinks that it's easy. It isn't, but it is exciting. You know, I was watching quite a lot of webinars recently worldwide during this pandemic, and they always have multi-billionaires who are running massive banks, who are running massive companies, talking how wonderful it was when they started and when they got there. Well, at least you are talking to someone who was a multi-billionaire, went through a major setback, and actually is on the path of building it all again. So people have courage out there. There are plenty of others like me. So I'll just share that story with you very, very quickly, just to give you some courage, no matter what adversity you're in now. So we were doing very well. I was top of the pops. Our products were sensational. Everyone loved them. We had 3,000 people selling our products, black, white, all the religions. Thank you, God. I love it when we all together. It makes me nervous if I'm only in one category. It's against my nature. Yeah, no, it's against the South African nature. You can see it. As soon as there's adversity, we forget all the arguments. The religions don't count. The ages don't count. Boy, we were together as we were recently after this disgusting attempted, never mind insurrection, attempted coup on my and your democracy. What happened? The government didn't do anything, for we won't go into that now. I will be prepared to do another panel if you want me on that. But what happened is black, white, Jew, Christian, Muslim, Hindu, X, Y, Z, young, old, wealthy, poor, stood up together and said, we're not going to let you do this to our democracy. We're going to protect it. That is why I'm in love with my country, and why I'm in love with each and every one of you. Because where, in any country in the world, where would that happen? No. And we've got a demand from the government we want to go. So now you know you're talking really to a troublemaker, Elise. So where was I? All right, so we were doing very well. You know something? When you're younger, I suppose, or when you're doing very, very well, you think it's going to last forever. Never in my wildest dreams did I for a minute doubt myself, the distributors with us, my suppliers. Everyone was just wonderful. And people said to me, what do you want to keep renting for? Buy your own building. And a beautiful little corner came, and we started in Braamfontein, by the way. And that's another story how we started. Someone liked me and gave me some free space in a building that had no one in it, but we won't go there now. And I found out there was a person contacted me and said, Reeva, I believe you're looking for land to buy. There's a beautiful property on the corner of Jan Smuts and Sherborne. It's an old little house, and an Italian company own it. And I went there, and I thought, this is everything I've dreamed of. You know, it's near where I've sort of always been, Wits, Braamfontein, Parktown, and I liked it very much. And I said, all right, we're going to make an offer. And we bought the land, and it was owned by an Italian family who were actually the top pasta-making people in this country. Just their name will come back to me. And they had just an old-fashioned house there. It had it wasn't a Herbert Baker or anything. There was a Herbert Baker two houses up, but that's another story. I wanted piece on the corner there. And they had a lot of offers and they accepted mine. And afterwards they told me that they accepted my offer, even though it was 25,000 Rand less, because they liked me. And because I told them that my makeup, which is true, was made in Italy, and I adored the Italians. So it was pasta raboni, I'll think of it. Anyway, so we paid R1 million cash for the land. That's how flush we were with money.
Wow.
And I took a bond to build the building. That was in 91. Remember, I'm still fairly young, very enthusiastic, excited. My background is psychology at Wits, modeling, fashion. What do I know about business? So the wealthy businessmen, everyone wanted to advise me. They were running after me and said, Reeva, when you take a bond, don't fix interest rates, because everyone knows it's 91, Mandela has been released. I knew that, of course. And interest rates are going to go down. Elise, I believe at that time they were 14%. They said they're going to go down to 8. I took a bond for millions. The building is another story. And I by 2000, and I built the building based on the Benetton headquarters. It was a photograph of this magnificent Italian villa I'd seen in a fashion magazine. And I thought, that's what I want. Everyone said, how can you do that, Reeva? Don't you understand? No one's building those bloody awful old-fashioned things, man. They're building black buildings and pipes out of things. I said, I don't care. That's what I want. You see, this was long before this was before we built it. So I flew the architect and the builder. It took me 1 year to get permission to go into the Benetton headquarters, which was in a villa, which was in an area an hour's drive from Venice. And after 1 year, we got permission and we got in there. They told us you can be here 2 hours taking photographs. 6 hours later, we'd photographed the whole building. There was an article in the Italian press, this mad young woman from South Africa is going to build the Benetton headquarters. And that is how we built Reeva Forman Parktown. It was amazing. That was in 91, very good years for us. And people loved the building. What is interesting is that the no top architecture will take it on. They said they were not here to reproduce the past.
Wow.
So we had to battle to find an architect at a top company, but someone that no one was using, who'd been trained in Europe, who was British in that type of architecture.
Oh.
And I just want to mention what the public mean to me. The average man and woman who hadn't been to university, who knew nothing about architecture, as we were building the building and they saw the arches going up and their buses drove past, they phoned me and they messaged me and said, we don't know why, but when we go past the building, we get a feeling of love when we look at those beautiful windows and shapes. So I've always had my identity as the man and the woman in the street, never the people at the top. So that was it. We built our beautiful building. I took my bond. I did not fix interest rates. They said it would go down from, I think, 14 to 8. Mandela was released. Everything was perfect. We were booming. And the unrests in Natal started just as they have started again now. Isn't that funny? And those unrests between the different African backgrounds and tribes in Natal hit the international stock exchange, and interest rates by 1997 were 26.4% a month. Now, you as an accountant know that there's no company in the world, unless you're doing maybe 100 million annually, we were doing 20 million Rand annually, can survive that. So wanting to keep my building, I cash-strapped the business. We closed the factory. We closed the training. We did everything. We lost nearly everything. In my type of business, when you're not recruiting, when you're not training, when you're not motivating, when you're not incentivizing. You know, throughout the 80s, the early 90s, our distributors would win competitions. They'd go all over the world with us. When that stopped, and I did everything to save the building, the business, I lost most of my distributors, disappeared. It was a slow period, of course. It slowly happened. The interest rates didn't go like that. They went like that very slowly. And by 2000, we couldn't keep the building any longer, and it was sold in auction. By the way, if your listeners want to Google, or you can, it's all on Reeva Forman Sunday Times business section, and you'll see the whole story is there. So that was it. Lost the building, went into a sort of I don't know where I was. Other people bought the building. They allowed me to stay on in a tiny little space, and every time the phone rang, I picked it up, and 1 or 2 or 3 customers stayed with us. And so the business limped on, to say the least. I didn't know where I was. I wasn't sure which way to go. But 4 years later, God gave me the opportunity to get my building back without a penny in my pocket. So you see, folks, it is still the age of miracles. Miracles still happen. It was a miracle. I met 3 guys, didn't know who they were. And I had this tiny little office in the building paying rent to the new owners I couldn't afford. And they said, you know something, they're selling this building. We believe you built it. I said, yes. They said, you know, it's been sold privately. I said, really? They said, yeah, we came to see, we believe that you can't even afford the space you've got. You want to rent some of it. Maybe my wife will take it. But basically, I'm going to probably be the new owner. And they walked out. Don't know who they are to this day. Don't know their names, nothing. Phoned up a friend of mine who was not in commercial property, who was in residential housing in Hillbrow in the black market. I said to him, now, by this time, it was owned by a property company who owned my building and massive shopping centers. And I said to him, please, look, phone them immediately. Ask them if the building, was still known as the Reeva Forman, is for sale. Just find out. He phoned up and he said, they've gone mad. I said, what do you mean? He said, believe it or not, it's being sold for half the price you built it for. He said, he said, have you got the money? I said, no. He said, okay, I'm putting in an offer for you. He put in an offer for me. He got it because they knew him. It was sold for nothing. And he came to me, and I want you to listen. This is still my best friend to this day. He said to me, if you think I'm going to lend you the money or give it to you, I'm not. I'm sorry. I'm not in your business. I'm not in the cosmetic business or the motivational training. Here, you have got exactly 48 hours to find the money yourself.
Oh.
And he walked out. It was the best favor anyone has ever done. I didn't know what I was going to do. I had no asset, no security, zero. So I went to the bank that had my business. I won't mention the name either. I better not. I was with them since a 13-year. And I said, look, you know how big my business used to be. And you know I've lost my building. They said, we're not interested in you. Bring us the tenants' leases, because the building at least was fully let, except for this tiny little office I had. I said, I'll bring you the leases. I phoned my friend up. I said, get the bloody leases. He said, fine, I'll get the leases for you. He says, but I'm not giving you a penny. So I got the leases of all the tenants. The leases of the tenants, folks, more than covered the bond, and my own bank, which I'm still with today, gave me like a 15 or 12-year bond, whatever, because the leases were signed. They were the top companies here, and there was no way, even if I couldn't pay the bond back, they could take the building fully let and worth double. So I was given 100% bond, and overnight, with no security or penny, except the building then became security, of course, I had my building back. I didn't go to the press and make a big fuss about it because probably I was still in shock, and I was in awe of what faith can do. And the fact that it had taken me 4 years to practice what I preached, but I didn't give up. I actually said, please God, let me have one or two things. If I lose the building, let me at least stay in as a tenant. I didn't even know if I could. So I think it is an incredible story. It still inspires me, and I hope it inspires your readers. So by 2004, we had the building back. I didn't have any money because all the money that came in for the building went to pay the bond for the next 10, 12 years. So I didn't know what to do, and I was still just picking up that phone, and I suddenly looked at this funny PC in front of me and thought, you know something, I've got to go online. There's no other way. And e-commerce was not big then. It was very, very small.
Yeah.
So I found a company who just agreed to put my brochure there and my name. And slowly, it took about 10, 15 years to become a fully fledged e-commerce company with our own platform. Probably that's how you found us, Elise. And at least about 4 or 5 or 6 of my original distributors stayed with us, those who felt they could go into this new era. And that's the story of Reeva. So only today is Reeva a fully fledged e-commerce company. And then people said, but you've got to charge for delivery because some of your products, I mean, your lipsticks, what are only 160 rand, how are you going to pay for it? I said, it's not my client's fault that I signed a bond and didn't fix interest rates. My own total responsibility. You never play victim and blame someone else for a mistake you made, even if the mistake was caused by your thinking incorrectly at the time. That's the one thing I don't do. It is my fault where I was, where I am, and where I will be. So I said, it's not my client's fault. You know something, Elise? I don't care if they buy even one product. It's going to be free delivery throughout South Africa. Wow. And thank God, I thank God for giving me that idea because we have built a great business. We are fully online. And our distributors are coming back and we're creating new online distributors. So that's our story.
That's amazing, Reeva, really.
Thank you.
So I think basically you've touched why we should only buy Reeva, but and I know I know you don't want to talk down any other products, but what makes Reeva different?
All right, I'll be honest with you. You know, when you look at skincare, and we're very well known for our skincare ranges, today in this era, there is no product that is actually going to harm your skin. Even if it contains petroleum oil, for example. But if you want to help your skin, I believe, and in Reeva we went this way, again, we were in advance of the time, we believe, and today many companies do it, not only ours, and everyone is developing fabulous formulations, but it also depends what you're used to and what you like and what suits you. We believe in herbal, natural ingredients. I'm a massive animal lover. I kill nothing, not even an ant. I'm not a full-fledged vegetarian yet, but and I'm not going to fight with anyone on thing. I can only say one thing from an ethical point of view. If you eat meat and chicken, make sure that they are raised in a humane way, that they are allowed to graze and eat naturally. And of course, I think abattoirs, even as a young teenager, I wanted to campaign against abattoirs, not against eating meat, but for decentralized abattoirs, because one of the cruelest things is how these human animals are made in the image of God. I'm sorry, folks. In Genesis, it says that God put his spirit in every living creature. So for me, you don't have to agree with me. I love animals. Animals have a soul. And I don't believe we were given permission to eat meat after the flood with Noah, unfortunately or fortunately, but at least we should treat them humanely. So, I really believe that just living in a decent way and caring for your skin is good. And really, it's very important as well what you eat. Not only what nutritional supplement you take, including Reeva's, or what we put on our skin, but because of these loves and passions of mine, of course, all our active ingredients are natural and herbal. We do not and we will not use animal ingredients. Today, it's banned mostly in the world. What ingredient can be used is the oil that comes off a sheep's wool. Without the sheep, when you shear sheep, you get a certain magnificent oil or moisturizer that I'm happy with. But I personally don't believe, from an ethical point of view, in using anything that causes pain to one of God's living creatures. So we are beauty without cruelty. But as I say, today, anyway, the trend is to go with natural ingredients. And at least we started that already in the 80s, and we've kept up with that. I am not against synthetically produced derivatives of those natural ingredients, provided they have not been tested on animals. And today you can test on a human skin or in a cell. So I do believe our products are equal, I'm going to say it again, to other products. It costs much, much more money to use a natural ingredient than to use mineral oil. So most of the inexpensive toiletries or skincare is with mineral oil, and it cannot do any harm. It can never harm you. And forget about it. I'm not going to run them down. It cannot harm you. But as you age, it cannot do you any good. So that's it. Another thing which I find very, very funny is that very expensive products, and we are not as expensive as we should be because of this major setback and rebuilding in the market. We've kept our prices much lower, in my opinion, than they should be. Having said that, I personally haven't found any study that proves that if you take a sunblock ingredient and put it in a moisturizer or a night cream or an anti-aging cream, how the hell is that going to go inside and protect you from the sun outside? Sorry, but if you're using a product, and we have it in our sun moisturizing blockout, which is my second top seller, if you're a young person, let's be honest, and in South Africa, many skins tend to be oily. You don't want in-depth oil and moisturizing inside. You need rather to protect from the sun and the loss of moisture, but you don't need more oils. You're young. So if you're very young, and particularly if you've got an oily skin, and before the I hate that word aging, before the process starts as you grow up, it's fine to use a product that does not and shouldn't penetrate the skin alone. For example, I'm going to give you a quick example. I'm sorry it's an ad, but the Sage Moisturizing Lotion with UVA UV Blocker is our second top seller after our Reeva Diet Supplement. Why? Because it's used by everyone. It's used by the whole family. It can be used for all different color skins, ethnic skins, and ages. However, in a person, let's say up to their 40s, and particularly if you've got an oily skin, you don't need to supplement it with my rich arnica night cream, or you don't need to supplement it even with my rosemary moisture cream. And God forbid, at 30, you should use an anti-aging product, which is going to cost 600-700 rand you don't need. So everyone needs to protect against the sun, whether they 2 years old, 6 months old, black, white, I don't care, man or woman, because the sun damages the skin. With our pale skins, which have a heritage of a colder climate, we have very little protection against the sun. With the local ethnic skin, they have a wonderful oil. Now, it leads to tremendous acne and problems when you're younger, and it leads to scarring when you're older. Whereas the more Caucasian white skin like mine, it's the reverse. You're great when you're young, and then you tend to age very, very quickly as the skin dries out. So I don't believe that there's one answer for everyone. We've always taught our consultants, and we offer this today online, that there is a special prescription of products for different people with different skin types and different needs. For example, a young person of 18 at least with a very oily skin would only need the Sage moisturizing lotion with block out as both a moisturizer and a deterrent against the sun, as would the vast majority of our beautiful black beautiful skins. However, also we've got a way of dealing with the skins that have been damaged due to the sun and having no protection, because the oily patches immediately become darker as though they had a suntan lotion on to make you darker. So therefore, a young person using Reeva would only use the Sage during the day as a moisturizer and even at night. Whereas someone like myself, who is not in the young category, who's not in the oily skin category, I would start off with using perhaps a cell revival day care, or a little bit of my vitamin E oil. I would then use my rosemary moisture cream with collagen, and when all that is absorbed, only then would I put on a very light layer of the Sage Blockout, because we believe, like that old ad, that the product with a blockout should be on top.
Yes.
So just to give you a bit of insight, it's not that our products, look, I believe our products are equal to the best. I use them myself. And I like to, and even if I didn't, and I wouldn't say that, but I want them to be good for everyone, not only for Reeva Forman. Yes. And I would not advise people to buy 10 products when they needed 3 because they've got a young and an oily skin. It's dishonest, and it's going to lose me business in the long term. Now, this is not as holier than thou as it sounds, because this is the way you retain customers for a long time.
Wow, for sure.
So that's it.
I must say I'm one of those that never had used sunblock because at a young age I had acne quite badly, and anything that I would put on my skin would cause me to break out like crazy. And now when I'm a bit older, I was in the sun quite a lot due to sport, etc.
Wow.
And I would think that time I was good at sport because I would be in the sun all the time, and I had what they call a strong skin because I would tan easily, etc. And now I have issues, and
no, you look gorgeous.
Thank you. So
I have consultations for you or any of our listeners with me with pleasure.
So now I have to find something that works for me, and it's an absolute nightmare because everything I have now is like a sensitive skin, and it reacts. And I break out, and so I will definitely try out your skincare products as well.
Please, but do that only with my advice, because we do have a form that you can fill in and we'll reply. And also, if you are highly allergic, we believe in giving you a sample of a product, testing it for a few days, and then, because there's not any product in the world, even the most anti-allergic, one person out of a million may not be allergic to, but we do have products specially designed. The two things that most people are allergic to are perfume, believe it or not, perfume in a product, and a preservative. So we do have one other product, and thank you for making this an incredible sales campaign for me. I mean, this is fabulous. But we do have an incredible product, which is another top seller, and we only have about 10 or 20 top sellers, and that's our vitamin E oil. We especially have no perfume and absolutely no preservative. It is a combination of natural oils such as wheat germ oil, which is vitamin E, allantoin, and others. It is approved by even a plastic surgeon to use it on a wound. So this is a magic product, because even if you're allergic to everything in our range, you won't be allergic to that or anyone's range. And it is really stunning. It doesn't seem to, it heals the sores of acne, by the way, Elise. And so even people with acne who are on our other natural products like our honey and hop scrub mask, 100% natural, no preservative, no perfume, does help get rid of the acne slowly. I don't believe in a quick cure. It frightens me. I don't believe in any quick cure for anything, whether it's a good marriage or building a business or anything overnight ain't going to last. So yes, thank you. We do have the products, and I think you're gorgeous, and all products today are good. Let me tell you why, because if they weren't be, you could sue them and you'd make millions. So every product, they're very scared today. It's the era of the public. Even the politicians are scared of the voice of the people.
Yes.
So is business. Good job.
So are we as South Africans the only ones that can buy Reeva, or do you ship abroad?
Okay. Yes. No. Yes and no. Everything's yes and no in life. First of all, we're very fortunate that Swaziland, Botswana, Namibia, all these have always been part of us anyway. So we still have a few distributors there, and we still ship there. However, with all the immigration that our country has seen over the years, there is a massive expat South African community. Look, in a way, it's good that we share our very special spiritual DNA with the world. So I'm not going to say anything else. Still breaks my heart, but never mind. And so, yes, we do supply customers overseas. Awesome. We have quite a few in Australia, in the UK, all in New Zealand, all over actually. The only thing is they pay for the courier or the post office, because that would kill us totally. I mean, if I don't make a little bit of profit, I'm not going to be here for you. I hope it's a lot. But yes, so they pay for the courier, but with the rand where it is, they're quite happy to buy the products and pay for DHL or the post office. So thank God, yes, we do.
No, I would too. That is great news. So you have such an extensive range of products. How did you decide which products to develop, or did it just go on as you went on? How did that happen?
Yeah, as I said, we really started off with my knowledge of having worked for another company and growing up behind the chemist's counter. So it took about 10 years to even get to cosmetics and have the big range we have today. And in my opinion, it became very, very big. And this is part of the problem, especially of even people in shops. that a lot of colors can go in and out of fashion. So yes, it became very big, but it took over 10 years. With the adversity and the setback, and I've never wanted to go through shops, and I'll tell you why. A, I don't have experience in that. B, I'm trained to develop entrepreneurs like you. I'm trained to develop other Reevers who want to start their own business. And it's very different skills, at least required to be an entrepreneur. Now, an entrepreneur within a company is just as good as an entrepreneur. It depends on your life choices. But an entrepreneur is someone who can join a company as a tea lady and ultimately maybe get to the top, become marketing director. It's a story that one heard many times in America and in our country. It requires brilliant skills, and it's just as great as being an entrepreneur. I'm incapable. I'm not an entrepreneur. I don't have the right skills. I don't have the skills. You know, I'm just an entrepreneur. I've never worked for a boss, and I believe if I would not succeed in becoming great and taking over pick and pay or taking over anything like that, or being any good in a huge empire. So entrepreneurial skills, at least, are very different to entrepreneurial, but both are equally great, equally important. You know, I mention two people that I used to mention in the 80s in Empower and the 90s in empowerment and motivational training. I don't know how many of you know the name Tony Factor. Doesn't exist today. He died a long time ago. But even long before me, he was dyslexic. His mother was divorced. He married a stepfather who hated him. And at 13 years old, he got on a boat and he hid in the steerage and went to the UK, and he stayed alive at the age of 13 or 14 by becoming a little boy in a Portobello market, you know, those old markets in London. And he even joked and said he sold false teeth. He had no education. I think he had maybe a standard 8 or standard 7, I'm not sure. He ultimately came back to South Africa. You know, Africa always pulls you back. And he managed to convince people to give him enough money to start a company called Downtown. He became very famous. Downtown has led to a lot of the type of huge companies today where they sold appliances like Macro or Hirsch. And he became a billionaire, and he still couldn't read or write properly. Okay, then I look at Lucky Michaels. I actually love the story. During apartheid, he started the Shebeens, and he built an empire, Elise, as Lucky Michaels during apartheid. There was another gentleman I've forgotten his name, but I used to work with him on empowerment training in the 80s. He sat at the roadside in South Africa weaving baskets like our brilliant African artistry does. And ultimately thought, why should I weave it and give it to someone else to sell? I'm going to get 20 other little guys. We're going to weave baskets together, and he became a billionaire. So, what can I tell you? Nothing changes. In this era, many people, in spite of the fact we're a democracy, supposed to have equality, still think I can't do it because you don't understand, Reeva. If my mother was a multi-millionaire, I would be today. No. Yes, there's much more opportunity today. The doors are open. So ironically, I believe in this COVID-19 era, where it's the most horrific thing that's ever happened to us in the last century. Nothing like this has hit the world, the economy, the loss of lives of people we love. And yet there are hundreds of young entrepreneurs, young black and white and Chinese young people in our country coming up with the most brilliant ideas on digital. The more things change, the more they stay the same.
Yes.
What do you think?
No, for sure. I mean, I've seen a lot of people having to start to think out of the box because of COVID.
As you are now.
And it's basically like making a diamond. They've been put under pressure, and you know, it's a beautiful thing, I think. I feel sorry for those who have really struggled in this time. I'm fortunate enough to still have a job. But
Exactly.
it's crazy
Exactly.
times, but it's still good to see that people are still trying to do something more. And that's
And
inspiring.
you know, when you look at our society and what happened after these riots, but look at it before the riots, look at it in the 80s, 90s, 20s now. There are so many organizations doing something to help those who are starving, who have not.
Yes.
And you know, what can you do? Your heart breaks for everyone and everything. You wish you could do everything, but at least do what you can where you are, with whom you meet, and how you go forward.
No, for sure. If each of us just do something that we can contribute, that little thing, add all of that up, and it would make such an enormous difference. And that's what's great about South Africans, is that people actually stand together when things get a bit tough.
Yes, exactly. I mean, people were planning to leave our country, and I've taken part in an international webinar on the future of South Africans, and this is by expat South Africans who are terribly worried about us. And I said, thank you, we love you, and thank you for worrying, but guess what? We stood up against apartheid. We'll stand up against this pandemic. We'll stand up against those extreme elements in our country of every religion, every color, and every society, particularly the extreme in politics.
Yes.
There's horrible people. And we'll stand up against it. And that's what makes us South Africans. So I actually believe in the future of this country and of the world, by the way, but this country should be one of the leaders. And we haven't been with the government we've had over the last 10 or 12 years, tragically. Now that that element and that leadership is out and couldn't take it back, please God, with the new leadership and with the people demanding what's right, we can once more be a light, as they say in the Old Testament, like Torah, a light to the nations, as we were in the Mandela era.
Yes. We can only hope and pray, and that, and I know things will turn out for the better. This is South Africa; it just has to.
Exactly. As you would say, exactly. I agree with you. And that's why I want to commend you on this initiative. I want you to thank you so much for having me, Liz. I want to thank you for allowing me to do this as well and for insisting that it's an advertisement for my products, and please support us. I'd love to deal with you. I don't care how small or big a company is. Every single person matters.
No, for sure.
And I think that's still a lesson for the very, very big boys to understand. But each and every one of you matters to us, because we're not only selling you what we believe is an excellent product. We're sending you, on your ability to look, to feel the best that you can be and to achieve your dreams and your goals. So Elise, I know you are going to achieve your dreams and goals. I don't know where this great concept is going to lead you, but with God's support and help, may it lead you to realizing your dreams and your goals. And thank you for having me.
Thank you, Reeva. That means quite a lot to me.
Well, Elise, I can't tell you, when I look back, folks, all the mistakes I made, like signing that lease with fixing interest rates. I did so many stupid things when other people saw me as very, very, very successful. And I wish I hadn't have done them. On the other hand, how could I have done anything else at that stage? Because that's how I thought. I didn't think there'd be a tomorrow when adversity would come. So first of all, forgive yourself, please, for the mistakes you made. I still think myself, and I'm a trainer in this, Reeva, why did you have to? And then I say, hang on. My ex-partner, who unfortunately had to leave the company, was a wonderful man. And he said, I want to tell you, Reeva Forman, you cannot unscramble an egg. I can't change the mistakes of the past. I didn't do it because I was a bad person. I did it because I didn't know any better. Maybe, that's the way you thought at the time. So forgive yourself. Just as Elise said, do your best now not to do the same mistake going forward. So there's a million things I want to tell my younger self. Why did you do this? Why shouldn't you have done it? It's pointless. I did them. So what I want to say is forgive yourself. To the younger people who were as excited and innocent and unaware that you couldn't start a cosmetic business and unaware you had to have millions to develop this and that, retain your innocence. It has a magic in it. And don't listen to the people around you who tell you you can't do it. Don't let other people subject negative influences on you. We used to call them psyops in my training. Even today, I battle not to let people who don't believe in my dreams and my goals. I'm still doing a lot of humanitarian activism work in a project in Hillbrow. If any of you want to join me, I need volunteers. It's to fight hatred of the other. And so many people saying, what are you wasting your bloody time for? What can you? So don't listen to other people. They are not telling you you can't do it or you shouldn't do it because they hate you. Usually it's your parents, your friends, maybe even teachers or professors. They're telling you that because that's the way they think. They grew up hearing that. So remember, don't get upset with them. If you get angry with them, as I still do, if you get angry with them, it means you're scared they're right. Just say, I understand the way you think. And if I were you, I think that way too. But I know with God's help, I can achieve my dreams and goals. So my most important advice is don't listen to people who may have your best interests at heart, but they've grown up, perhaps working in a job they hated, and they were told, well, you've got to stay there until you retire. Or you can't do that, you don't have the ability. That's what they heard. So how do they know any better? So thank them enough for caring about you that they worried, but tell them God's good. When you don't know what to do and you seem to have reached a brick wall and nothing's going right, pick up that phone and phone anyone, do anything. Just get out of that setting which comes the brick wall, or take up a pen and say, no, there's still things I can do. Just do something. And you'd be amazed that what is meant to be will be. So that's my advice to young entrepreneurs. Don't listen to people who tell you, I can't do it. You can't do it. They love you. They don't understand. And when things are impossible, try the next thing that comes to your mind. Then what do I give to myself? To the future. What else? You said to young people, Elise?
Yes, and then to your future self, is there anything that you would like to say?
Yeah. Remember, most discriminations are now politically incorrect. Of course, our minds still have those ideas. So to discriminate against a person on the basis of color or lack of education or their religion is not done today. And it's, of course, it's still being done by some. There is one discrimination, though, which is not politically incorrect. And of course, I've got a vested interest in the cities, and that's the discrimination against age. You're either too young or you're too old.
Mm.
Now, I'm not going to buy that. And I don't like this age is relative. And I think growing old gracefully is even worse. For God's sake, what has a mindset? What has passions to do with your age?
Mm.
My hero, by the way, is Mandela. His great career started at what age? At least 80 something?
Yeah.
None of us said, oh, you can't do that. No. So don't judge a person on their age. Unfortunately, most people do. I personally hate the word retirement. I think it's a dirty word. Unless you've worked your life for a company because you had to put bread on the table, I understand that, and you're just waiting to get away to start your real dream, then it's a beautiful word. And even in today's era in America, you are not allowed to ask a person for their birth certificate or how old they are, at least when you go for a job.
Wow.
Yeah, they kick you out when you're 50. Okay, now it's 60. Now they're trying to make it 65. Now, for God's sake, let a human being retire when they bloody well want to. And let a company get rid of someone because they haven't got productive skills anymore. The finest combination and innovation and genius of new products has always been with a young, creative, excited, open, innocent mind and an older mind with experience. You put those two together and you've got the miracles. And many miracles have happened that way.
Yeah.
In the world. So I don't like any discrimination. I don't care on what basis it is. Let's judge people when they come for work, and most of us will. I didn't. Most of us may start as entrepreneurs and then break off into their own companies or become an entrepreneur. And as investing today is an incredible, wonderful black man that is a friend of mine. I mean, he's the big boss there. Now, he started off small. So it doesn't matter whether you're in a company or out of a company. Let me give you one bit of advice, and it's going to go contrary to everything. Stay early and work late. People will say to you, are you bloody mad? What do you want to kill yourself for? What do you want to stay early and wait late? They're not going to pay you more. You say, I'm going to do it because I love what I do and I'm passionate. You've been trained to only take what you can get and to give as little as possible. Tragically, this is what society tells you. And even people who love you will say, Elise, what do you want to kill yourself working for a bloody boss for? Are you bloody mad? Yeah, work as little as you can. No. The average employer, tragically, pays the staff as little as they can, and the average staff in return as well work as little as they can. Well, we were trained by this wonderful man who trained me in America. We won't include that now, Elise, but he said, watch what other people are doing. Do the opposite. On the stock market, you buy when everyone's selling and you sell when everyone's buying. That's not so easy. But what is easy is when you go for an interview to say to your boss, listen, sir, if ever you need me for something special, I'm prepared to come in early and I'm prepared to work late, provided it doesn't affect my family. Please call on me. This is the attitude that it's not licking the bosses, you know what, it's not. It's showing that you respect your ability and that you prepare to give and you prepare to take on new elements of your job and new elements of work and learn. You don't say, I'm not going to do that because the union said, I'm an engineer and I'm not allowed to help in the accounts. I'm against. All of that has caused an unequal society, and it doesn't allow people to develop and get new skills. So you be the one who says, Can I come early and can I start late if it doesn't interfere with my church and if it doesn't interfere with my family? And if